Having your own home is awesome, but it's also a lot of work. The good news, finding help for your projects has never been easier. Introducing Angie, the app that puts all your home care needs in one place. Need a pro to fix that emergency leak? Maybe you're looking to set your seasonal tasks on autopilot. Angie can handle all that and more. Expert pros, hundreds of home projects, clear pricing, and the easiest way to book and pay in seconds. This is Angie, your home for everything home. Download the app today.
Well said, Anderson. I am Chris Cuomo, and welcome to Prime Time. The Trump electeds in Congress say they accept the election results. But listen to what is passing for conservative think at CPAC.
That here in Texas, we stand with President Trump. And in 2024, Trumpism will rise again.
God bless you, President Trump. The Republican Party under great leaders like President Trump is being reborn for another beautiful day in America across this country.
President Trump is still fighting for, because we believe that it should be easy to vote and hard to cheat.
What was Donald Trump right about? Everything!
Listen, it's okay to hug Donald John Trump as tightly as he hugged the American flag at CPAC's past to show how much he loves the country. But the question and the concern is the other stuff. What are they trying to prove? Are they aware that pushing this same brand of sickness led to this? January 6th? That's why these people were so incensed. They believe the lies that the election had been stolen. And here's a new look at those that Trump told he loved after they attacked the Capitol. The Justice Department released this police body cam video today that shows officers trying to save a pro-Trump rioter who was trampled. And then what happens to them? They get attacked, dragged downstairs, hit with crutches, flagpoles, batons. Is this what conservatives want to be about? Today, the DOJ said Trump's big lie and reinstatement fantasy talk could fuel more violence. And yet at CPAC, the theme, which is America uncanceled, but it raises a question. Is it really about canceling the truth? Seminars on how to collect evidence of fraud? What fraud? Here's another. Spare the fraud, spoil the child. CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. Is it really now about pushing the big lie? Let's bring in the organizer, Matt Schlapp. Good to have him on Primetime. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Chris.
So, Matt, we've talked about this before, but I didn't expect it to be this big at CPAC. What is the thinking on going so strong at the idea that the election was a fraud? I mean, not even your own elected officials in Congress agree with you.
Well, Chris, I think it's very clear that in the states I was in after the election, including the state of Nevada and the state of Georgia, they did not check the signatures on mailed-in ballots, contrary to the law, and that should never happen in this country again. Matter of fact, they saw some wrongdoing in New York City in their elections as well. And there's fraud in every election since the beginning of time, including in America. And we ought to all agree, Democrats and Republicans, that nobody should vote who's not legally allowed to vote. And unfortunately, in the last presidential election, because they didn't check those signatures, we had massive amounts of fraud. These are facts, and they're undisputable.
No, it is not a fact that there were large amounts of fraud. You had me right up until there. You've got people chanting.
Did they check the signatures? Did they check? But let me just push back on this. Did they check the signatures on mailed-in ballots in the state of Georgia, which the Secretary of State said he would not check those and verify those signatures? And did they check the signatures in Clark County, the largest county in Nevada? Did they check them? They did not, and contrary to the law in Nevada. Now, you can say it wasn't enough votes to change the outcome, but you can't say I'm not wrong.
Hold on. Here's how you are wrong. And I think you know this. My real question is going to come next, which is why you're doing this. But just to engage in this little bit of palaver for a second.
Why am I on your show? Because you asked me, and I'm happy to be on.
Appreciate it. I invited you because you're very relevant on the right side of the aisle. CPAC used to be the place where you would see where the head and the heart of the party were. And I can't believe they're going to be wrapped around a lie. To say there was fraud doesn't mean, even if you were right, okay, on your own assertion, you didn't check all the boxes of what you were supposed to do. I'm not saying you're right, and no court has said you were right, and all of the suggestions that you would prove this over time have never been met. But even if that's the case, that's not fraud. And it doesn't mean that the election was stolen, and yet you have people at CPAC chanting, Trump won, the election was rigged. Do you really believe that Trump won?
I believe that what we should do in America is follow the rules on voting. And what the Secretary of State did in the state of Georgia, and he's a Republican, not my kind of Republican, but he signed an illegal consent decree to not check and verify the signatures of people who voted by the mail. As you know, because of the coronavirus,
but you don't know that
we
there
had
was
historic
fraud,
levels
Matt.
of mailed-in voting.
But you don't know
yes, I
that
do,
even
because now
if
you're using the word fraud.
No, you're using the word fraud.
I might
and
just
CPAC
use the word illegal.
is using the word fraud. Not me. I'm using the words you're using.
Let me use the words. I'm speaking. Why don't you let me use words? What I'm trying to tell you is that if you don't verify the signatures on mailed-in ballots, especially when you had, in some cases, double the number of mailed-in ballots, you are inviting fraud, and those ballots could be illegal votes. And that's why we verify voting in this country. When Democrats run against Democrats, most recently in the city of New York City, they realized that they should verify each ballot. They found a lot of illegal ballots.
The Republicans who ran the election in Georgia say they did it the right way. It was reviewed by courts, and
Chris,
it was
you're
held
wrong.
to stand, and they
Chris,
certified.
you're wrong.
Of course I'm not wrong. You just
Chris, you're
don't
wrong.
like how it went.
Let me just start.
But hold on. Again, Matt.
Let me get you to I will agree that the Republicans in Georgia screwed up and they did a bad job with the election.
That's not what I'm
suggesting.
suggesting.
Can you agree with me?
I'm suggesting that they ran the election and they certified.
Should we follow the law in voting?
Of course,
should you
everybody
verify,
should follow
you follow
the law
assiduously?
You just
then
don't
why
have any
didn't
proof
they in
that the
Nevada
law
and Georgia?
wasn't
Why
followed.
are
So here's my big question.
I have all the proof you need. Ask me any question you want. I have all the proof you need.
I'm sure you're going to have
Please,
answers.
ask me the questions.
I'm sure you're going to have answers. I just don't think that you have proof.
In fact,
they're not facts.
what you're
facts
doing
are things
is
that are established. I'm not sugarcoating anything.
Did they check the votes? Did they check the signatures on the mailed-in ballots in Clark County and in Georgia?
Every official that was
yes
involved
or
said
no?
they followed the procedures according to law.
That is
Every
not
one
right.
of them said it, and it was reviewed by a court, and
in
they
Clark
found
County,
that it was viable.
I'm going to say this over and over again.
I know, but I'm not going to
Clark
let you,
County,
because here's why.
According even to a Democrat-run state, you had to check the signatures
Look, Matt,
on
what
all
I'm
the
saying
mail-in
is
ballots.
you are using that
and in
argument.
Clark County, they did not. Why?
You're
why
using
can't
it as a
you
proxy
acknowledge
because
the
here's
fact
why.
that
Here's
they
why.
didn't check the signatures?
Matt, here's why. I don't understand
Yes, sir.
why you are banking your conservative platform on this. You really believe
You're
that
just
the
asking me
way
questions.
to
I'm giving
win
you
the
answers.
midterms and maybe
No.
the next presidency is by
No.
trying to create misgivings about the
No.
democracy?
No, I'm
That's
not.
all you're talking
I'm just
about.
answering your questions, Chris. Now you asked all the questions. Now let's stop. What is CPAC about this year? It's about uncanceling America. It's about opening up schools. It's about opening up churches. It's about telling the federal government you don't have the right to intervene on these questions. It's about on social media, conservative voices should be accepted just as liberal voices are accepted. We have a national media that treats conservatives with disdain, but social media platforms that had this idea that all of us would have a voice, we should have that voice.
You
That
don't
is
have
where
the voice on
conservatives
social
are.
media?
You can talk about this election. Chris, you can talk about this election all you want, and you're on unsolid ground. I'll answer any question you have.
Unsolid
but what
ground.
conservatives
You don't have
are
a
focused
single
on
decision.
is their agenda.
You don't have a single state official on your side, and they're from your party. Look, let's put that to the side,
you're so
okay?
wrong.
Just put it to the side. Do yourself a favor.
I respect
what I'm
you,
saying
but you are
is,
so wrong. You
Okay.
have not won on one substantive case. Give me a substantive
you never get to
argument
substance.
as to why it was okay
you never
to
get
not
to a
check the
substantive case because you
signatures on
never
mailed-in ballots.
Hold on, Matt. You guys never. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Get out of my ear. You guys never get to the point of having any type of judge get to review it because there is never the basis for a claim.
Not right.
upon which they can
Did
make
you
a
not
determination. And you guys have used this to your advantage. But
Did you
here,
read
my question is
Justice
bigger than this. It's much bigger than this.
Did you read Justice Alito and what he said?
Alito.
Excuse me, Justice Alito.
I know, but I know why you'd want to combine the two, because he's trying to be like Scalia,
not?
even though he's Alito. I'll give you that.
Because I love
and they
Scalia.
are both Italian.
It's on my mind. I love him.
Listen,
I love him.
may he
There's
rest in
nothing wrong with
peace.
being Italian.
What
And
I'm saying
here's
is
the
this.
thing. Chris,
I'm asking a different
let me
question.
talk just for a minute, okay? Because it's
You've
your
been
show.
talking a lot,
it's
Matt,
your
to
show,
be
but
honest.
Let me just talk for
but go
a minute.
ahead.
Well, that's what being a guest is. You get to talk. But my
It's
only
a conversation.
point is this,
Two
which
people
is
talking a conversation.
You guys,
go ahead.
fair enough, and I respect the fact that you have me on. But my point to you is the following, which is don't act like there's not a legitimate claim when you have an election that's one we've never had before with all these mailed-in ballots. Don't act like it's outrageous for Republicans and conservatives and people who like Trump to be really question this case of why didn't we vote the same way we voted in 2016, where everyone who voted by mail, you had to verify that you were a legal voter.
Matt, I'm
in
just
2020,
telling you,
we simply didn't do that in these cities.
Here's the problem.
But we should do that. Do you agree? We should do that.
Of course, you should follow the rules. What I'm saying is you are creating a boogeyman. You know and I know that Georgia looked at 10,000 ballots. They found 10 signatures that didn't match, and then they later found out that they were okay. The facts aren't in your favor. What I don't get is
true.
Why are you making a case to the American people that you know is based on a lie? Why are you making CPAC about the big lie and not all the other things you could argue?
CPAC, the title and the theme of CPAC is America Uncanceled.
Well, what are you canceling?
And what
the
we're
truth?
trying to do with these CPAC conferences is it's a nice little slight. Now let me talk. The whole idea with CPAC is this idea that the federal government came in and said, because of the pandemic, that we couldn't have churches open. We couldn't have schools open. Half of this country is outraged over the fact that our kids have fallen behind because the federal government said you couldn't open up. Then on social media, all of us get canceled. You don't get canceled.
You know it was state by state.
The rest of us get canceled all the time.
You know it was state by state, right? You know each of these governors made their own determinations, right? Why are you making the government
no, I don't
a boogeyman?
Think that's right.
Why are you attacking institutions?
I don't think that's
I thought
right,
you guys were about bolstering the institutions.
Why am I attacking the federal government, which told kids
that
it
didn't
was
tell
unsafe
anybody
to go to
anything.
school?
They should have told kids.
Partnered with
the president at the time from your party said, let the states do it. You'll get no oversight. You'll get no guidance.
Which made it sound like it would be unhealthy and unsafe for kids to go to school, which actually said that it would make people sick to go to church, where the governor, Republican governor of Maryland, said it would be a super spreader if we had a CPAC in Maryland. So you know what we did? We went to Florida,
church gatherings,
we went to Texas. This nation is very divided.
Super spreader events. They still do. You just had a camp where the kids went to camp and they had 125 cases after. It's not anti-religion.
But you're advocating for an abridgment of the First Amendment because you were scared about a virus. We have the right to make those choices about how we practice our religion ourselves. It doesn't. No state can abridge. No state can abridge my First Amendment rights.
It was
state by state. The federal
state.
government cannot abridge them.
But why are you saying the federal government? They had nothing to do with it.
It doesn't matter the level of government. Your constitutional
Their Republican
rights,
governors made the same determination.
Let me explain this to you one more time.
Sure.
You don't feel canceled because you never are. We feel canceled because we constantly are. Now, you've broken the model because you've had me on CNN. People like me don't get on CNN anymore.
Matt,
and I
you're always welcome here to
on.
make the case
but
because I want to understand.
No, that's not true. It's not true. I'm not welcome at CNN, and you know that.
Where are you right now? What do you think CNN is? The Cuomo News Network?
You're
on CNN right now, brother.
I'm trying to give you a compliment. You're the only one who will have me
Don't
on
do that.
periodically.
Listen, Matt, I got to jump. You're always welcome to make the
truth.
case. You're always going to. I'm always going to welcome you to make the case.
But you're never canceled. Have you ever been canceled in your whole life on social media or national media? Have you ever been canceled?
Yes, I have.
You don't know what
Matt,
it's like.
I have people coming after me from the left and the right 24/7. It is a dog-eat-dog world, and I have milk bone underwear on. Okay?
No.
But listen, you're always welcome here to make the case.
I don't know what that means, but
it's from Cheers.
I don't know
Norm
what the
said
underwear
it.
thing means,
Look it up. You'll like it and you'll use it.
On.
I got to jump. Matt Schlapp, thank you for making the case. All right, I appreciate
If
you
I
doing
said
so.
that, I would have gotten canceled.
If
Okay,
you
thank
quoted
you, my
anything correctly, I'd give you credit. I'll tell you that right now. I'll talk to you later.
Oh, that's not too nice.
I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
All right, so look, I believe in the conversation. I know some of you are going to be unsatisfied. In fact, I know a lot of you will. But I tell you what, your biggest mistake is that you don't listen. You have conversations, you can talk over each other, you can do that. But keep the talk going, because conservatives matter in this country. Now, I don't know what they're becoming. I don't get this big lie thing. That's why I had them on. Conservatives are better than that. We'll continue the talk. And it really is a quote from Cheers. You can look it up. So the MAGA mindset. What does this mean? All right. Now, I want to bring in somebody who is a mentor to me in terms of the mentality as a broadcaster. All right. A student of the world, somebody who understands the dynamics that have shaped us for decades, and who's also going to help us understand what's going to happen when we get to the Olympics this year. Bob Costas. What a treat. Next. Look, you can feel any way you want. I fixed the IFB about, don't have those people on. I don't agree. I don't know what to tell you. I don't agree. You have to disagree with decency. You have to have the conversations. All right? CPAC matters. All right? Conservatives matter. Now, this year, I don't get it. I don't get embracing the big lie this way. Conservatism could be about so much more. But it's all about Trump. And not just Trump. It's about the deception that Trump just explained to you as disinformation. So what does this mean about the direction of the country? We're going to get a great twofer tonight from the legendary journalist Bob Costas. First, brother, always a pleasure.
Chris, nice to see you.
Thank you for being in my life. We'll talk the political sport, and then we'll talk about Olympics. Now, you heard the Matt Schlapp interview.
I did.
He knows that he doesn't have proof of what he suggests.
He is personable and civil and just as full of it as any MAGA cultist when it comes to what he's telling you.
Now, what does it tell you that look, we both grew up watching these things. The conservatives have had very established platforms about high principle and what they want. For them to be reduced to just the big lie and cancel culture, I'll give them. You know what I mean? They can campaign on that.
Yeah.
But and there was fraud. What does that mean to you?
Either you have cultists who really believe, despite all the evidence, that Donald Trump is the answer, or you have people cynical enough to say, look, our base is devoted to him, so our political future lies in aligning ourselves with that as much as we possibly can. And if we won't go full-throated, like some of the most extreme members of Congress or people that are out there in MAGA media, if we won't go full-throated, then we'll try to just slide past some of the stuff that we can't really rationalize and change the subject to something else. The last time I was on with you, I made this point, and I don't think I'm alone in this. I think millions upon millions of moderates and people who think of themselves as left of center feel the same way. Wokeism and leftism are not the same thing as classic liberalism. They need to be called to account. They need to be opposed, even if some of it is what we might agree with. They need a thoughtful opposition. MAGA world is not, it's many things. It ain't thoughtful.
It does feel broken, doesn't it? I mean, we use that. It's like trite but true these days. Everything's broken. Mm-hmm. But having this system where opposition is enough. Look, nobody understands sport better than you. You'll never find another competition where it's enough for you to win as if I lose. You're going to have to put
It's all
points.
zero sum.
That's right. And that's what a two-party system gets you, which is if opposition is enough. Opposition is now a saleable position. Look, that is what they're trying to approximate with the big lie. We're against what happened in the election. We're against how it's done. The question is, where does this get us?
I don't think it gets us anyplace good. Look, leave aside. Leave it. Let's accept the absurdity that whatever the flaws of the mainstream media are, whatever the flaws and omissions of CNN might be, leave aside the notion that every single journalist who is not right of center is either corrupt or just spectacularly wrong. And just leave it to what Trump showed us himself with his tweets, with his actions, with his biography prior to entering politics. And how do you explain away? Maybe you could have one or two disgruntled former employees, somebody trying to sell a book. Of all the presidents in my lifetime, you don't have as many people who work closely with that president as have worked closely with Trump and then have said how oblivious he is to facts, how unfit he is temperamentally and morally to be the president of the United States? How do you account for that? That's not Chris Cuomo or Don Lemon saying that. How do you account for the people that you used to find at CPAC? How do you account for George Will and Brett Stevens and Max Boot and S.E. Cupp and Peggy Noonan and Kathleen Parker? How do you account for those solid conservatives and Republicans who saw through this from the beginning?
You know what their answer is? Their answer is everyone you just mentioned.
They're a rhino.
They're all rhinos.
Yeah.
They're all part of the machine.
Right.
Elitist, D.C., muckety-mucks. And they've all made their money on the system, and they want to keep it closed. They don't want an insurgent like Trump. Now, look, I'm good with all of that. Honestly, I think that it is a debatable issue. It's an argument to have. Mm-hmm. They just picked the wrong change agent. And I think
that's right.
That's why it had to get worse, because they were never going to be able to bank on him as being better. So what they had to do was now argue that everything is even worse than they thought. And that's what the big lie is.
Well, look, they're devoted to him, hopelessly devoted, as an old song lyric went. And yet, what is his level of devotion to anyone who is not 100% loyal to him? Exhibit A, Mike Pence. They call themselves patriots. We're true American patriots. Who tried to overthrow the election? Who tried? And it's on tape, the phone call to election officials in Georgia, everywhere. All these things that are preposterous on their face. And yet, if you're a member of a cult, you're down the line with that cult. What could be more patriotic than anybody, Democrat, Republican, Independent, encouraging everyone to get vaccinated? It's not a coincidence that the top 20 states, in terms of percentage of citizens vaccinated, are all blue. Not because Democrats are morally better or more intelligent than Republicans, but because of the atmosphere that you're talking about. And the top 20 states with the smallest percentage of citizens vaccinated are all red. They all voted for Trump. Trump will barge into somebody's wedding at Mar-a-Lago and go through his insane obsessions about how he's been mistreated and the election was stolen. But think of the good that Donald Trump could do if he asked for and he'd receive from every network 10 minutes, half an hour of television time and said, no matter where you are on the spectrum, please get vaccinated. It's the best thing to do for yourself, for your family, and for your country. That would be the best thing Donald Trump ever did in his public life. Why won't he do it? Because he doesn't feel there's any benefit in it for him.
Good point. We'll see if he decides to answer it. Sometimes he does in real time. Not on Twitter anymore. Let's
You know what's going to be on Twitter about me? Stick to sports.
No way.
But you asked me.
No way. And look, I'll tell you what, it's a good segue, though, because one of the things that used to bring this country together so much was when we would get to the Olympics. Now, this year, you're going to have COVID. You have the headline that they're not going to have people there. People like CPAC are going to argue that that's about government trying to ruin our good time. And there's other controversy there about testing. I want your take on it, brother. Thank you for being with us. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with Bob Costas. Let's talk about what the Olympics is going to be like this year. Is it better or worse? Next.
Owning a home is a great thing. It's yours, it's a part of you, and a reflection of who you are. Great things can take a lot of work, though. Maintenance, repairs, and updates, you know the drill. Unfortunately, there isn't an owner's manual for taking care of your home, so sometimes you need a professional to step in and help. Introducing Angie, the app that puts the home help you need all in one place. And you can use it for whatever you need done, even when you need it done now. With Angie, you can connect with expert professionals for hundreds of projects and see clear upfront pricing. You can even book appointments and securely pay pros through the app in seconds. It's never been easier to fix emergency leaks, find the best contractor for a renovation, or schedule all your seasonal maintenance so you don't have to worry about it. This is Angie, your home for everything home. Download the Angie app today or go to Angie.com.
All right, here's the latest on the Olympic front, okay? The leaders for USADA, that's the United States Anti-Doping Agency, they're responding to critics who blame them for Sha'Carri Richardson's ban from the Tokyo Olympics. In a letter to Congress members, AOC and Jamie Raskin, okay, two Democrats, they called on the agency to reconsider Richardson's suspension last week. They responded with a letter, quoting from it here. USADA does not make or have a direct vote on the anti-doping rules, but as a WADA code signatory, we are required to enforce them. That's called ducking the situation. Bob Costas back again. Yep. Again, thank you for being with us.
Third handshake in 10 minutes.
Listen, I'm going to get all. When do I know when I'm going to see you again? So that's a hedge. Mm-hmm. They have to enforce the rules. It still takes you to the rules and whether or not it's correctly applied here.
I think they could speak out more forcefully. They did say that they think it should be reviewed, but they should speak out more forcefully about how unfair and officious this rule is without applying common sense. But they're right in that they can't overturn the rules that apply to the Olympics.
So who can?
WADA rules apply.
WADA.
The IOC.
So WADA and IOC would have to do it. But the United States hasn't gotten upset about this. And in fact, they then took her off the whole team. She can't even be on for the relays now.
Yeah, this is what's interesting. She was suspended for a month. But the 4x100 relay is one of the last events of the Olympics, doesn't take place until August 9th. That suspension would be over. It would keep her from running her signature event, the 100 meters. But in theory, she could run on the 4x100 team. But technically, she didn't qualify because her time, her winning time at the trials, was discounted because she tested positive for weed. Now, the way to look at this, I think, in an enlightened way is this. Let's say I'm a baseball player and I bump an umpire. Maybe it's a 5-game suspension in the mind of the commissioner, but it's on the eve of the playoffs or the World Series. Very often in a situation like that, it's so it will be served during the regular season, because if it's the playoffs or World Series, the effect is disproportionate. The IOC and WADA themselves make it clear this is a misdemeanor. It's only worth a month. Justin Gatlin got 4 years and missed the Beijing Olympics, America's top sprinter, because he tested positive for a performance enhancer. Christian Coleman is now sitting out 2 years, not because he tested positive, but because he avoided tests 3 times, and they consider that circumstantial evidence. Those are serious offenses, and it cost them Olympic appearances. So if this thing had happened in March, she's back running in April. It just doesn't blend any kind of common sense with the technical rule. You're a lawyer. Suppose you were arguing your case and the guy is charged with a misdemeanor. The judge is going to sentence him to 3 years. 3 months. Seems like a fair sentence. But he says, you know what? My daughter's getting married in 2 weeks. The judge postpones the sentence. It's the right thing to do. The guy's not going to run out and shoot somebody. You look at the case for what it's worth. Sha'Carri Richardson should be allowed to take part in the Olympics, and then the penalty should be served subsequently.
Is there any chance it gets reviewed or changed, and who would have to do it?
The IOC and WADA would have to do it. I don't see it happening.
Them making the decision not to have fans. They have all these athletes now that they're putting out on social media who saying, oh, it sucks that I'm not going to have my family there or the fans. Is this the right call?
Well, you have to say with such a small percentage of Japanese citizens vaccinated and states of emergency throughout the country, and what their health experts are saying and political figures there are saying, it is the right move. I mean, this whole thing is looming as a disaster. Every Olympics has cost overruns. They're into the billions and billions, and COVID is only making it worse, and they can't recoup much of it because there's no tourism, there's no fans and paying
You think
spectators.
It'll change it in a way that will make it like so much less than it would have been otherwise?
Yeah, atmospherics are part of sports. Think of even the NBA and the bubble. You watched the games. They were competitive. Some of them were very good games, but they didn't have the atmosphere that you expect. The Olympics are about so much more than the competition, which is central, but it's not the only thing. The atmosphere, the emotion, family and friends, the reaction of spectators and countrymen, all of that will be missing. I know that my friends and colleagues at NBC will do a great job, and they've already made plans. They're going to have cameras and microphones in the homes of some of the American athletes expected to do well. They will make the best of the situation. Ambient sound, coaches and peripheral people mic'd up, but you just can't make something into what it's not. And everybody watching will know that there's a pall over these games because of the way in which they're being held. So that diminishes the good feeling that we usually associate with an Olympics. I said to you when I was on previously that the ideal would be to postpone it till 2022 when hopefully circumstances would be better. That would be ideal. But there are other reasons why they had to go ahead. There are contracts that have already been pushed back a year. The Olympic Village will be repurposed for housing or commercial real estate. The venues for concerts and for other sporting events. The World Cup is next summer, and to much of the world, that's of greater interest than the Olympics. And the World Track and Field Championships are in Oregon at about the same time as a rescheduled Olympics would be next summer. And it's not like you're missing some peripheral sport. Track and field is one of the signature events of the Summer Olympics. Athletes don't get paid directly to take part in the Olympics. They do
for the other events
at the World Track and Field Championships. So there were mitigating circumstances.
I have never seen anybody undercut their own suggestion as well as you just did. You said we should do it in 2022.
I said that would be ideal.
9 reasons.
No, I was trying to give them their due.
And you did. Bob Costas, you are a gift to the audience. Thank you for the brain food. I appreciate you.
4 handshakes.
Hey, I'll take it.
It's more handshakes than I got in a year during COVID.
It was like a vice. I know. That's why I'm trying to get them all back in now. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate you. All right. So the booster shot thing. Look, I told you last night that this was a controversy, right? That what was Pfizer saying, what was the CDC saying? Now everybody's saying it's a debate. There is no debate, but it is confusing. But this is the bigger question. Don't be distracted. If the vaccines work so well, if the data is so overwhelming, why aren't they approved by the FDA? Think about what that would do for a certain number, a significant number of people who say emergency use, not for me, and I'm certainly not going to let my kids take it. Why not remove doubt about safety if you can? A top doctor in the House next. Booster shots. Pfizer says, yes, we're going to need them. The FDA, the CDC, they say no. They issued a rare joint statement. Americans who've been fully vaccinated do not need a booster shot at this time. But an infectious disease expert who led the clinical trial for Pfizer's COVID vaccine says immunity may weaken.
It is not unusual for immune responses after vaccination to wane over time. What is the crucial point, though, and which we don't know the answer to right now, is even though that immunity wanes over time, does it remain above a level which we need to protect people?
Now, just to be clear, that has always been the calculus or the consideration, depending on how you want to look at it. They've always known that the vaccine will wear off. A lot, just a little bit, they don't know. That has always been that way since the beginning. Now, why do we care so much? The Delta variant. How troubling is it that we have experts that are worlds apart on this potential need for a vaccine when you have this variant coming? And it is here, and it's making a difference already. Let's discuss and get deeper with Dr. Ashish Jha. It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me back, Chris.
Boosters, I think we can dispense with this fairly quickly. Give me your take on what the reality is and what it has always been. Has anything changed?
Nothing's changed, Chris. The bottom line is we got to follow the evidence. The evidence says 2 shots work. I've seen nothing that says people need a 3rd shot. Until that time that we see the data, got to stay with the 2 shots. Nothing has changed.
Vaccines do wane over time, yes?
They do. But, there are vaccines that are long-lived. They may wane a little over time, but 5-10 years later, they're still protecting people. A lot of vaccines out there like that. We don't know if this will be one of them, but it might be.
How confident are you in the data about these vaccines?
Well, I'm super confident that these vaccines are incredibly protective, including against the Delta variant, and they're very, very safe. And the best way I can prove that I'm confident, not only am I vaccinated, my teenage daughters are vaccinated, my wife is vaccinated, everybody in my family is vaccinated.
Then why hasn't the FDA approved it?
Well, look, this is a good question. I've been kind of beating up on the FDA a little bit. They're doing a thorough job. I get it. It takes a while. But I don't want them to cut corners, and I don't think they're going to. I think the data here is overwhelming, and it's clear, and they've acknowledged as much. But it takes them a while to go through all of it and kind of dot all the I's and cross the T's, and I wish they would move a little faster.
It creates misgivings, and the administration is compounding the problem by not speaking about the process. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, the one thing that the White House is trying to be careful of is not looking like they're meddling in the FDA's business. And I appreciate that, by the way, because we've seen that happen before in other White Houses. And that's not a good outcome. So the White House is trying to stay away from this and let the FDA do its thing. And the FDA is moving, but I want them to move faster.
Yeah, it's unsatisfying, though, Doctor. This is in extremis, okay? We're in a pandemic. People aren't getting vaccinated because politics is winning over practicality. But one of the real obstacles that I'm sure you hear about all the time is, it is only emergency use authorization. And like if Brown University came to you and said, we're going to mandate this, they'd get pushback from families because it hasn't been approved yet. That is a big variable that we can control. And I get that you want it done right, but if the data is so overwhelming, what's taken so long?
Yeah. Well, I will say the following, Chris. So Brown University did mandate it for everybody. And a lot of people said, whoa, can we do that without full approval? And the answer is we can. And we have. And lots of other people are too. So companies that are waiting for that, you don't have to. You can do it now. But yeah, I agree with you. Full approval is going to help a lot.
Yeah, it makes it hard. I mean, it's easier to do it when you got a sheesh job, in your house. It makes it easier to have comfort on the vaccine, but not everybody has that. Doctor, I appreciate you and thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
If you want to get away from this, really get away from everything. There's so many different viruses, right? You got COVID, you got the politics, you got everything going on. How about just blasting off to space? When you're a multi-billionaire like Richard Branson, you can hitch a ride on your own rocket. Less than 48 hours from now, that's exactly what he's going to do. What does a former top astronaut make of the launch? Next.
Have you ever thought about going into space, Richard?
I'd love to go into space, as I think pretty well everybody watching this show would love to go to space. When you see those magnificent pictures of in space and the incredible views, I think there could be nothing nicer.
3 decades since that moment, and it is finally happening. Richard Branson is blasting off to the edge of space aboard Virgin Galactic's rocket-powered plane this Sunday. If everything goes according to plan, the spacecraft known as VSS Unity will take off from an airplane runway attached beneath the wing of a massive mothership. So how does it work? It gets to about 50,000 feet. The mothership will then release Unity. The rocket engines fire up, send this craft up into space like the space shuttle used to work, 3 times faster than the speed of sound. The trip would make Branson the first billionaire ever to travel to space aboard a vehicle he helped fund, beating Bezos by just 9 days. Love it or hate it? Why would you have a strong feeling either way? This is what's happening. Commercializing space flight. Good, bad? Let's ask an astronaut. Let's ask Captain Chris Cassidy, retired chief NASA astronaut. Good to have you, sir, and thank you for your service.
Chris, thank you very much. Really glad to be with you tonight.
So what do you think, brother? Billionaires blasting into space.
Everything about commercial space travel, I think, is exciting for people, which excites our nation and ultimately is good for the overall manned space program. So I couldn't be more excited about it than I am. I think it's all positive.
What do you think about those who are criticizing it? Oh, all that money, they should donate it to hunger. Or how come the rich get to go and nobody else? What do you make about those kinds of complaints?
Those are valid arguments, and particularly coming out of the year of COVID when everybody's battling through their own financial troubles and getting back on step of where we were prior to that. And there's certainly things that we can spend that money on to help fix the broader issues, as you allude to. But I think that in some time in the future, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, space travel will be affordable for everybody. Right now, it is not. It's expensive, but we got to start somewhere. And does it need to be right now? That's beyond my pay grade, whether or not we spend government dollars to do that right now. But I think that now is a great time as any. And just coming out of the government world myself, I think it's a great partnership, this commercial and the government space side.
Here's my concern. Safety. Going to space is hard, Chief. I mean, you know this. I mean, the God forbid risks. We've all watched them, and you guys live in fear of them, and, so many multiple redundancies and training to mitigate risk. Can the private sector do it as well? Do you have worries about this?
Everybody involved in manned spaceflight has worries about safety. It's something that's taken near and dear to every person's heart, every engineer, every astronaut. regardless of your country. I've flown in space with pretty much all of our international partners, and it's taking at the same level of severity across the globe. And do I think it can be achieved in the same level in the commercial world? Absolutely. It's terrible for your business case to have a catastrophe on one of your launches. So I think that they wouldn't be, neither company would be putting people on the rocket if they didn't think it was ready to be viewed live on CNN.
Why do you think we need to have more attention on space? This is something that we've kind of touched on from time to time, that there's something about the ambition of it, about the endeavoring of it, about, the final frontier that seems that we've shied away from here on a national level. What does that mean to you?
I think people in general are explorers by our very nature, humankind. And space is just that. We're pushing the boundaries of knowledge, and really that's what space exploration is all about. It creates jobs, it creates economy, and there's trade-offs on how you spend the money in any government budget process. But that's the beauty of how now commercial space flight is coming into play, where it really is exciting and it really does get.
We can go to space, but I can't keep Chris Cassidy on a satellite feed from a hotel room. All right, that's okay. We had enough time with him anyway. Captain Chris Cassidy, thank you very much. We'll be right back. Thank you for watching and giving us the opportunity. I wish you a very good weekend. But first, Don Lemon tonight with the upgrade Laura Coates right now.
Or the highlighter pen, depending upon how you want to gauge upgrade, highlighter pen, neon green. What are you thinking?
Listen, people should be paying attention, and you should be naturally underscored.
You know what? That's what we're going to name this outfit today. Thank you, Chris Cuomo. This is called the underscore. I love it. I love it so much. Happy weekend ahead to you. Great show as always. Nice to see you.
Be well.
Owning a home is a great thing. It's yours. It's a part of you and a reflection of who you are. Great things can take a lot of work, though. Maintenance, repairs, and updates, you know the drill. Unfortunately, there isn't an owner's manual for taking care of your home, so sometimes you need a professional to step in and help. Introducing Angie, the app that puts the home help you need all in one place. And you can use it for whatever you need done, even when you need it done now. With Angie, you can connect with expert professionals for hundreds of projects and see clear upfront pricing. You can even book appointments and securely pay pros through the app in seconds. It's never been easier to fix emergency leaks, find the best contractor for a renovation, or schedule all your seasonal maintenance so you don't have to worry about it. This is Angie, your home for everything home. Download the Angie app today or go to Angie.com.